Hello, and thank you for joining Contagion, John.
Grant, thanks for having me.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background before we get into how your firm has shifted operations during COVID-19?
Sure. First, my name is John Strotbeck. I'm the founder, CEO of Boathouse Sports in Philadelphia. This is a business that I started in the late 80s in the midst of an Olympic racing career. I raced in the 84 and 88 Olympics. I was a USA rower. I was the runt of the team at 6'2", 185 pounds. But in between the two, I left my corporate job and realized there was a niche out there that wasn't being served, which was rowing clothing. And I started making rowing clothing, hence the name Boathouse. I think the message came first from the Ivy League that they were going to shut down all spring sports on or about March 13th. We met, how do we pivot the company to stay alive, believing that our market was going to be shut down for a while. And then on March 19th, the governor of Pennsylvania closed all non-essential businesses, which included us. So all of a sudden we went to zero. Quickly realized that schools weren't coming back, sports weren't coming back, and we had to do something. And essentially, we pivoted into PPE with a little bit of luck, but mostly just knowing the fact that it had to be done, somebody had to do it, and we had all the assets with which to do it. The stroke of luck was I understood the supply chain challenges in medical, and but I have a lot of friends who are doctors and nurses, and we identified materials sitting in hospital closets, known as surgical wraps or surgical filters, that could be repurposed and made into masks for doctors, nurses, and frontline workers. We picked up some samples from one of the local hospitals on I think it was about March 24th. We created prototypes, delivered them on the 25th. On the 26th, they were approved by 4 of the local hospitals, and by the following week, we started delivering our first pallets of medical masks for doctors, nurses, and frontliners. We knew at the time that eventually China or Asia, whatever masks were going to come in, would drop into the country sometime in late April, May, and sure enough, I'd say about 3 weeks ago, we shipped our final medical masks. But between then and now, we began a program to build surgical gowns in partnership with Jockey International, and all the gowns are destined for FEMA. Our current order is 500,000. We're trying to get up to about 10,000 a day. I think currently we run into a couple of bottlenecks, but we're doing about 6,000 to 7,000 a day. And we expect this program to run for at least another 3 to 4 to 6 months. So speed's always been part of the core competency. So we used that. We used our tenacity and basically, people. If you have all these assets right in front of you, you just try to do something. And the tendency for us, most people, is to say, well, you can't do this or you can't do that. And we've always had the attitude, why not? And we have all the equipment. We know how to make anything. I mean, we make some of the most complicated products in the world. And the reality is PPE is pretty simple. All we had to do is get a hold of the materials and find the customers. And that didn't take long at all because nobody else could figure it out.
In producing all of this PPE, what did your safety standards and processes, screenings, things like that look like at the point of production?
So first of all, everything that we're making, it never touches human hands. Currently, we probably have about 120 people in the building. Normally, this time of year, we'd have 250. But everybody comes in. First, they're checked. A nurse is at the front door, and there's a little isolation space where she checks everybody's temperatures, asks them questions. If they pass, she hands them a set of gloves. So everybody gets issued 4 sets of gloves a day. We're making masks, so we got plenty of those. Everybody must wear a mask all day. We have 3 or 4 people that are sanitizing all horizontal surfaces all day long. So if an employee gets up to go to the bathroom or lunch break or just break time, the minute they get up, somebody comes by and cleans their area. If they take their gloves off, they have to put a new pair on, and of course they have to wear masks. And there's nobody in the building that's in a common area that's not wearing a mask or gloves all day long. Additionally, we have a pretty big factory. I mean, our total square footage is about 100,000 feet. So we moved all our equipment relatively far apart. So most people are about 10 feet apart, and then and 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 whereas we're moving product around, there are dedicated staff that is moving product from one work center to the other work center, so people don't have to get up a lot, And it's worked pretty well, and we've just been diligent in following what makes sense, which is wear gloves, wear masks, keep the place sanitized. We've been using foggers and UVC light a little bit. We don't know if the UVC light really works, but can't hurt. So we're doing everything we can, and the employees have responded incredibly positively. And one of my managers told me, well, actually, my factory manager, who he manages most people here, 200 people. He told me 2 weeks ago. He says, despite all this, the morale in the factory is probably the highest it's been in 3 years. It is very purposeful, but it's also, we're working 10-hour days. We're working 4/10, so people have more time off. Again, we don't want people getting up, which is a little bit restrictive. I mean, there's restrictions on people. And whereas you might think people like it less, I guess they do feel that we're doing the right thing, and people are very happy about what we're doing, which is good to hear.